Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. It's your host, Matt Zahab. We are buzzing as always. Folks, I got to fix my lighting. I do not know what's going on, but during the day, if the sun is not out and it is a rainy, horrendous day in Toronto, actually almost flooding in Toronto, I look so white. I'm not actually this white. I literally look as pale. I am the same shade as my white door behind me for the, obviously, viewers and not the listeners. But c'est la vie, the show goes on. Super pumped to have the one and only Burnt Banksy on the show today, founder and CEO of XION. 3 years ago, he burned a physical Banksy, which ignited global discourse on NFTs and Web3, exposing the industry's flaws. This story was covered literally everywhere. Bloomberg, CoinDesk, Crypto News, of course, CoinTelegraph, BBC, CBS, GQ, you name it. It was absolutely everywhere. And now he is the founder and CEO of XION, the first blockchain which was built for consumer mass adoption through chain abstraction. We are going to be getting into everything chain abstraction related today, mass adoption, some fun shit, of course, you name it. They also raised over $36 million from top tier investors, including Animoca, Circle, Multicoin, Arrington Capital, Spartan, and more. Coming in hot from New York City. Super pumped to have him on, the one and only Burnt Banksy. Welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing?
Hell yeah, Matt. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on. And dude, thank you for making me look tan, because I am not tan.
Dude, how white do I look right now?
It's pretty, I actually didn't even realize it. And then I look at myself and I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm this tan.
Yeah.
I don't leave this.
Just in the bunker. Speaking of bunkers, I guess the trendiest news it happened last week, but again, we don't record on, we do record on Friday sometimes, but as you guys all know, every episode drops every single Monday and Thursday like clockwork. The Trump news, how wild was that? I mean, I have not had goosebumps like that in a while. That literally lit the media news storm on fire. How wild was that?
First of all, the memes coming out of that will be seen for generations to come.
Amen.
I have not stopped listening to Many Men by 50 Cent since the event happened. And I know this drops on a Thursday. It'll still be, it might be my number one on Spotify Wrapped after this.
Yeah, I've been bumping it as well. That usually comes up in my sort of shuffle, but I love that. Also, JD Vance, a huge... that news came out a couple days ago as well. That's big for the crypto
space.
Very
pro-crypto. Very pro-crypto.
I listened to a couple of his talks online. I've never even... I was cognizant of the guy, but didn't really care or give many shits about him until this news came out. But man, this guy knows more about crypto than most of us. Like, he's pretty freaking... He switched on.
I'm like, I saw he had 250 grand of Bitcoin in 2022, and I'm like, all right, nice.
But I don't know if you've listened to his talks. Like, he knows what he's talking about too.
Does he?
Yeah.
I saw a brief clip of him, I think, presenting, and it's... I mean, listen, dude, I've seen fucking clips of Gary Gensler presenting too, so...
Exactly. No, that's a very good point. But yeah, what a wild week. Trump getting shot, taking it like an absolute just nail gun. That guy wakes up in the morning.
Market ripping afterwards.
Yeah. Crazy.
ETF coming out.
Yeah, we got Solana ETF next year as well. I mean,
boom.
Good news. It's a good time to be in crypto. The last couple of months, last 2 months have been a little rough. No real fun stuff going on. No big news. But here we are.
You always have that like pullback right before a really big fucking rip though.
Exactly. Let's get into, I guess, really the thing that made you famous was burning a literal Banksy. For those who don't know, Banksy is one of the most famous artists of all time. I mean, to my knowledge, I think he's still anonymous. No one knows who he truly is. If you guys want to obviously learn more about him, he does absolutely incredible art. I was in Amsterdam probably 7-8 years ago, went to the Banksy exhibit. Absolutely. That's sort of when I not fell in love with the guy per se, but really appreciated how incredible of an artist he truly is. But with that being said, Anthony, you burned a literal Banksy. I want the whole story. I want details. I want all of it. How did you even acquire this Banksy? Were you a fan of him before? How much was it worth? Why did you do it? Give me the whole, I want every little detail starting from step one. Ball's in your court.
Definitely a fan of Banksy before. And like starting before, like the perspective also at the time, it's definitely was a story that really was just of its time, I would say, which was no one had fucking heard about NFTs except for very few people, right? You had you had crypto punks at that time, and it was like that's cool, right? It wasn't what having a couple crypto punks is now. Like exactly. I saw a venture firm called Two Punks Capital, and like if you would have said that in like 2019, it would have been like,
who is this
okay,
guy? Yeah.
Like that's cool. But it's interesting because so at the time, also perspective. The highest sale of an NFT ever was like less than $100,000. I think it was like a Z horse, one of something.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of crypto kitties, way too many that I'm proud of. And, as it kind of related, we were in New York, which was, in my mind, where a lot of the epicenter of crypto was, with Uniswap starting here and Consensus starting here. And it was like it was the place to be at the time for crypto. And we were very fortunate to have been caught up. And I say we, me and my two best friends, one of them Injective at the time. Or both.
Yeah.
Still,
what year is this?
2016.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but everyone was making fun of me, effectively. Like TLDR, everyone was making fun of me. This whole NFT thing, it was, bullshit, right?
Yeah.
If it's not in my living room, if I can't touch it, if I can't do this, it's not fucking art. It's a JPEG. If I click it, right click, save, it's whatever. You still hear that today. But, so I'm like, all right, let me take something that has value. Let me digitalize it as an NFT and then destroy the original, and let's see if it has value. So the piece we picked was actually very, very specific. It was entitled Morons. It had sold at Sotheby's, which was very important because we also got like a certificate about that, right? And then on the piece, if you actually looked at it, it says it's effectively the piece mimics that of Sotheby's, which says they're all like clamoring for a piece that says, "I can't believe you morons actually buy this shit." So a lot of it was just like a play on the original definition of that. And like I used to be a lot more anonymous than I am now. Obviously, my beautiful face is here right now, but a lot of it was like homage to Banksy, and I had no idea that this is where we would end up. Like, we set the min bid. We bought the piece for $90. It did end up selling for $400,000, but you need to understand that like $90,000 was the highest price of an NFT ever sold. So we knew that we were going to have to break a record in order to make money off of this thing, which we really didn't think that was going to happen. And if I'm being honest, we were fucking stupid. Like, it was dumb. We set the min bid to, I think it was like $40,000. And we're like, you know what? We had a lot of fun doing this. Like, no matter what, it was a great time. And if we don't make money, that's okay. Like, if we break even, that's great. Either way, it was like genuinely a lot of fun. We had like more attention than we'd ever seen in our lives. And then I remember like 10 hours before, we're at like $60,000 or something like that. And we're like, well, that's what it's going to be. Like, great. Like, that's awesome. We're almost broken even. I had no idea that this is where everything would end up at all.
And walk me through the actual burning of it, like, and the whole fiasco, getting news. How did that all go down?
Yeah. So like the news part was easy, right? You tell a PR firm that you're going to light a you're going to light a Banksy on fire. It made it much easier, and it ruined a lot of my next expectations for how PR worked, because it's like, hey man, it's not the fucking same. You're not lighting another Banksy on fire. Yeah. But we live in Manhattan. I remember we took an Uber out to my buddy's house in Brooklyn, and midway through the car breaks down, and so there's this great photo of me just holding this 90,000 piece of artwork on the side of a highway as we wait for another Uber. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But, we got out there because weirdly enough, it's hard to light something on fire in Manhattan. Whatever. Lame rule. And I'm like, we're getting ready, we get everything done. I'm like, dude, we don't have a fucking lighter. And so I pop into a bodega and I get like, they say it was a Bic lighter, but it was actually like one of those like cigar lighters.
Yeah.
It didn't fucking help. But I'm like, I remember standing there as I'm like lighting this thing on fire, thinking, hey, this is paper. It should light on fire really fucking easily. But if you look at the video, it looks like I've never done anything in my entire life before. I'm just standing there.
I was going to chirp you for that. I was going to be like, yeah, you got
like an asshole.
You've never gone camping.
Yeah, dude, there's one comment that's like, damn, this guy really, really never burned down the establishment before. And I'm like,
legit.
Like, that's a fucking solid comment. But I'm like, dude, I literally look at this thing, I'm like, that's paper. Obviously, it's going to fucking burn. Apparently, it was a lot harder. And I didn't even think for like lighter fluid or anything because it's fucking paper.
Yeah. Interesting. Very, very, very cool. So that happens. You personally, you already had a following before that, but that really made you guys blow up. And then walk me through sort of the next steps. What happened with XION? Was XION already created then? Was this something that happened after? Did this help get funding? Like how important and integral was actually burning that painting for your own personal brand and to get XION locked and loaded as well?
I was a fucking nobody. So completely amazing for my personal brand.
Right.
I mean, I'll be honest, like for the first little bit, I didn't really care about like the Burnt Banksy brand as much as I probably should have. And I think it's come back a lot more. But what happened on like the idea for CION hadn't really existed. Nothing about CION really existed. But when we did our sale, we were pretty crypto native. And I say we because like I did it with two friends, right? But it was like I was pretty crypto native. Like we had been mining for a while, we had been working in the industry for a while.
Yeah.
And it was a fucking nightmare. It was a nightmare. And we ended up like it was minting the NFT, getting into OpenSea, getting all that shit done, getting people to buy it, it was so terrible. And it was at one point which was like, dude, I really love crypto. I really want to keep doing what I'm doing. I really want to keep working in this industry, but it's fucking impossible. Like this is not it, right? Like the UX is terrible. No one knows, and like unless you know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it, you can't use this stuff. And like it's gotten a little better, right? But that was really the impetus of CION, which was I love crypto and I want everyone to be able to use this. I want my parents to be able to fucking use this, right? Like they were like, oh,
Yeah.
can we bid on the auction or something like that? I'm like, first of all, dog, I know you can't. But like, like, you know, second of all, it was like, even if you wanted to, you couldn't, right? It was, and even to this day, like to kind of get into CION a little fast forward, this is the first testnet that I'd ever worked on that my parents could actually use, which is awesome.
Yeah. So I guess let's jump into CION then. Give us the elevator pitch, why you created it. You just brought up chain abstraction and sort of beat the point of your parents being able to use it, which I love. I talk, you know, I unwillingly bring my parents into this almost every podcast as well because I think of them, you know, who are both pretty darn good with the computer, but even my friends who are really darn good with computers back in February and March when they were getting into Solana meme coin mania. Like I had to literally personally onboard every single one of my friends. And it took more than just sending that sort of little copy pasta snippet that I sent to everyone in regards to getting them on board. It's still nightmare fuel. So with that being said, the floor is yours. Give us the elevator pitch on CION, why you created it, what it does, and then we'll get into the fun stuff here.
Yeah, so CION is the first and only walletless L1 that is just designed to completely abstract everything crypto related and aim for complete consumer applications. Very simple. Very simple.
And why chain abstraction? We hear this term all
it's
the
bullshit,
time.
right?
No one it's and I personally hate the term because when you distill it and actually, you know, bring it down into bite-sized pieces of info, it is more easy to understand, but the term itself is 0 out of
terrible.
10. Think about a Web2 person and you hear the term chain abstraction. Like you're running away from that. Like what the fuck does that mean? Pardon my French, but
getting better. Oh, dude, I think I've cursed like 40 times.
It's getting better, but as an umbrella term, as sort of the, you know, the parent company, if you will. It's not obviously a parent company, but as the parent term at the top of the food chain, I think it's terrible, personally.
And I think like that's the issue that you deal with like within this industry. And I think that's more of a dynamic of this industry because if I was on a Web2 podcast, quite frankly, I would have given you a different elevator pitch, right? But now like crypto news, I think crypto people will probably be listening to this.
Exactly.
Right? Chain abstraction is not for the Web2 people, it's for the Web3 people, right? And I think the reason that, you know, this industry thrives off of narratives just as any other industry does. And I think the good thing about chain abstraction is that on like a word-for-word basis, oh, you're abstracting the chain. That's fine. Like we've seen modularity and intent and it's been worse. Like, you know, like it's been worse. And I think it's pretty solid of just like, it is bullshit, right? Because I believe a lot of alt narratives are. And it's like, if you can do something 40% close to whatever the narrative is, hop on the narrative, get other people talking with you, and then just fucking run. But make sure you're building something actually sustainable in the meantime. You know, and then I think at the end of the day, it's the same thing as like, I can very easily truncate exactly my goal by giving you that name, even though it's not phenomenal. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So if you were to explain chain abstraction to, like you said, and this was a Web2 pod, Web1 pod, heck, whatever the case may be, how would you explain that? How would you sort of use real world examples?
I would just say that crypto sucks and we just remove all aspects of crypto. So you could just have a fully regular experience and there's crypto on the back end. We utilize the benefits of crypto, but you don't need to see it.
So it's program, application, whatever you want to call it, that is the exact same as it looks and feels in Web 2, but it's running on a Web 3 backend and you will never know anything about it.
So yeah, we give the tools to developers to create applications that can kind of target that. And like we've seen pretty solid success. We had one project work with Samsung, one project work with Uber, and working with BMW, the North Face. And yeah, it's very, very easy because for the first time you have this full Web 2 experience.
Gotcha. And you decided to create an L1. Again, just for the listeners back home, we'll do a quick little refresher here. L1s being your Bitcoins, Ethereums, Solana's, blah, blah, blah. Your L2s being all the ones on top of that, and L3s being the ones on top of that as well. L2s are really blowing up. L3s are blowing up. We've had a couple L1s sort of jump in the arena over the last couple of years, but no one's really grabbed a whole lot of market share, which again, it's more difficult. It's a long-term play. This is a long tail play here. This isn't a short-term play with an L1, whereas that is more likely the case with an L2 or an L3. Why create another L1? It's such a nightmare. It's such a shit show. It's so much more complex. There's no sort of traditional groundwork and tech to work on. I mean, there is, but it's not as easy as just sort of plug and playing with an L2 or an L3. Why create an L1 in such sort of, market conditions and go that real long route instead of just taking the short route?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, first of all, a great question, but I think also the semantics of saying an L1 is only for the sake of we're not built on top of other people. And
Gotcha.
The way that we kind of operate, and I think you interestedly alluded to where I think one of the major problems are in this industry, which is an L1's, like, new entrants shouldn't be just have the goal of taking new market share away from other people. I think that the way that we operate is, and we talk about chain abstraction, this is one of the facets of chain abstraction, which is it doesn't matter what product your chain is on. We want to connect to you and we want to make it easy for users. And I don't give a fuck how we do that. We're going to try to make it easy, right? So we did this with Injective, we did this with Neutron, we're doing this with Solana, AVAX, BNB, Saga, you name it, right? And just with the idea of saying, hey, this genuinely should be collaborative. We believe people will be specializing. We believe that there's going to be other L1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 8s, 12s, whatever. And we believe that it shouldn't matter because what really people care about or need to care about are the actual products, not what underlies them. And so with that being said, ideally working over to like an Arbitrum as well as a Solana, and I think the idea was never to be a remote island L1 that was just different because it's different, because that's how you die. And I think like the tribalism that kind of comes with that, and this idea of, hey, if I want to succeed, someone has to lose something, is not a great way to run a company, especially that's this small.
And you guys view yourself, this is something that I saw that came up a lot while doing research for this, is you guys sort of coined yourself as the first non-competitive L1.
Yeah.
Which I find very interesting. I'd love if you could sort of take a deep dive on that.
Dude, it's so lame to be competing at this level. Like, we have so much fucking room to actually go. The fact that there's like this inner fighting between L1s of like, I think there was like an ad for Aptos or something. I believe I saw a Mert post, which was like, oh, this is to steal Solana projects, right? When there's this giant world out there that we have not yet to figure out, and we're fighting for
let's work together, folks. Well,
like,
why the fuck
what are
not?
we doing here? Like, What are we doing here? We can all win. We literally can all win. And it would be so much better for the industry for us to focus our resources on expanding outwards rather than consolidating inwards. To consolidate later, like, sure, that's going to happen. Who am I? But like, I think right now, and in my stint in crypto's history books, I do not want to be competitive. I'll talk to a Solana project and it's like, oh, do you need me to deploy on us? And it's like, no, we don't. Like, that's not the goal. Like, decisions should not be made off of like tribalism or grants, honestly. It should be made on where is the right place. If I'm a DeFi project, I could go to like an Injective. If I'm a gaming project, I can go to like Immutable X or something like that.
It's easier to do the opposite of what you said though, because if you have all these grants locked and loaded, or it's like, okay, I'm splitting hairs here, but let's say company X wants to build on ETH, but Solana has a massive grant. Hey, come build this new game on Sol and you can get 500K in funding, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, hey, there you go. We just, paid for half the dev team's salaries for the year. Boom. And then it's like, okay, we start our new chain or we join chain X, Y, or Z, but chain A, B, or C already has hundreds of thousands or millions of users. Therefore, we can already have a user base. Like, you know what I mean? Again, it comes down to this, I feel like narrative in crypto, and I'm sure you and I, not I'm sure, I'm positive we're in the same yacht here. I've never been a part of an industry where there's such horniness and keenness to get rich quick. And to,
of course,
you know what I mean? Like when a Web2 company launches, it's not like, okay, let's have 100,000 Twitter followers before we even go live, then launch the thing. It's like, no.
Yeah, of course.
It's a completely different field. Once we lose that narrative, I think your point will be fortified.
And I think that, it's a matter of time because we're going to win off of users, right? So if you're looking at, if you're saying, hey, you're at a chain, oh yeah, well, this chain who has 20,000 users is offering me a grant, so I don't go to your chain with 60,000 users. It's like, great, there's 9 million people at the door right now, or like whatever it is, right? And there's this unfortunate like catch-22, or like chicken and egg, I would say, which is like, there's no products in this industry because there's no users. And then there's no users in this industry because there's no products.
Exactly.
And to the point, like 500 grand, it's great. But like most very, very serious companies are not going to, like if you want to be a multi-billion-dollar company, you shouldn't be taking a $500,000 grant as like where you start the most important decision of your life. And I think it's so indicative, like, and I'm very happy that like Chain has started speaking about this and Movement has started speaking about this because it's something that we felt as well, which is it's so short-term aligned that I remember we got a grant, or like I personally got a grant from Solana back in the day, and I totally forgot to claim it. I didn't even remember that. And it was like, I was going to go to Solana either way because this is 2021, like somewhere around there, where I was building very early on Solana. And I like 3 years later, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. It was, but there was nothing that was going to stop me because it was the fast, cheap, this, that, or the other. And I knew that was where we'd had to go. And so it's like to now see, it's like, well, yeah, everything kind of sucks here, but they gave us $3 million. It's like $3 million does not last you forever.
It's very true. Anthony, we're going to take a quick break. Got to give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. When we get back, we are going to keep talking about the state of the market, mass adoption, long tail crypto thesis, and we'll get into some fun stuff and a couple hot takes as well. Until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends of CryptoNews.com and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50 to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Anthony. I want to jump into mass adoption for a bit, and more specifically, solving UX and fragmentation. Obviously, this is your guys' bread and butter. This is what you guys do. Solving UX and fragmentation is pretty much a synonym for chain abstraction. Solving those two things is literally what chain abstraction is, at least to my knowledge for the most part. But mass adoption as a whole, you and I are in the same boat that we do need to solve UX, UI, and fragmentation in order for the masses to come in. But is the term mass adoption, is it a meme? Is it a catch-22? Are we overlooking this? Like, is it going to be sort of slow and steady to win the race? Are we going to have a Web2 Facebook moment where like where Facebook, was almost the single, handed catalyst that brings everyone on board? What's going to happen in regards to mass adoption here?
Dude, if I knew, I would tell you. Right? I mean, I think it's going to follow something similar to Facebook, right? You are going to exponentially get that. Like right now, there's no way a Facebook could come in because the onboarding process and the friction would not permit it. And you want to achieve the speeds of adoption that's required for a Web2 startup. It's actually pretty much impossible in this industry, right? And I think this is like, goes to your point as well, which is, well, why do you have 100,000 followers before we even have an idea or whatever? And it's because you have to, right? Like that, you need to understand that you've cornered this market because it's A, small, it's B, an echo chamber, and C, there's this chasm aspect that kind of keeps people in. But I think that once we get to the point, and I actually think, with everything that's kind of going on, I do really think that we're actually extremely close. And I think next bull market, like we're going to thrive in the bear market. I'm very, very excited for that because it's going to not mention crypto and we can actually have products that do things. But right now, crypto is extremely solutionist, as most non-mature technology narratives are. It was funny. I was reading a book called Crossing the Chasm, which I highly recommend anyone like who even cares about, like, it is what we're working on, right? It was written in 1998, and it talks about how if we want to reach mass adoption for the internet, we need to cross the chasm, right? Right now, the internet is in this like early stage where it's only technology enthusiasts. It's really hard, but we're going to need to cross the chasm to mass adoption. It is exactly similar. It mirrors
Same
crypto
thing as us?
to a T.
Wow.
Even so, I'm laughing because there's this one part in it which is like, they talk about AI and they're like, people were using AI, but the technology for AI wasn't there. So now no one will ever in the history of the world ever use AI in their marketing again. And I'm like, damn, if only you just saw what A16Z just led. But it's true, right? And it's so indicative of just where we are and how shit don't change ever. So then to kind of go to that example of Facebook and everything like that, I do think that it'll be product led for the reason of there's no reason for people to just casually enter crypto.
Yeah,
as much as
there's got to be a reason. And with Facebook, you had to, or else it was FOMO. You know what I mean? Like you
were using a product.
Exactly. It was incredible. Heck, I was in grade 7. I think it was in grade 7 or 8. I'm a 95. I'm 29 years old. When everyone in the school got Facebook, your hockey buddies.
Yeah.
You're finally getting into girls, trying to, comment on girls' pictures from liked photos. But it was electric.
Thank God my Facebook from back in the day is like nuked. I couldn't even.
Yeah.
It was electric though.
You had to though. You had to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was like, and everyone else was doing it.
Yep.
Right. But that was a product, right? You weren't like, Mom, I need to use the internet.
Yeah.
No, it was I want to use fucking Facebook.
And that's a big difference for right now. Yep. It's still the narrative, which would be synonymous to, I want to use JavaScript, or I want to use C++, or I want to use insert whatever, Web2 language. No one gives a shit. No one gives the single smallest shit. People want products, and we still don't have any products that are good enough for mass adoption.
Exactly. And there's not much of an incentive to right now, right? Nope. There's, it's like, hypothetically, when we get there, shit's got to be faster. And it's like, yeah, okay, but let's hey.
Yeah, no, it's true. You've had some really good talks, podcasts, posts on your long tail crypto thesis, looking sort of beyond the traditional market cycles and truly finding a place for crypto in this world. Now, when we think of sort of crypto theses and narratives, it's really almost all price involvement.
Yeah, of course.
Which is a little unfortunate, but again, it's like, what do you expect when...
It's the nature of the game.
Exactly. Like we're in a get-rich-quick game here. What's your long-tail crypto thesis? Any sort of hot takes that are sort of unorthodox or uncommon?
I think it expands outwards the idea of crypto. I think it's impossible to ever get rid of the financial aspect of crypto because it's about democratizing ownership.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
And you're going to have a price tag on ownership, and it's okay. That's okay. That's why the industry is susceptible to the grifting, is because you have the pricing. But it's also why it's so susceptible to change, is because we're now giving people access to these financial instruments or financial access that they just wouldn't have been able to do beforehand.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be short-term volatility and long-term growth. That's Nassim Taleb. That is not even my quote. Nassim Taleb, and I fully believe it. Hilariously, Nassim Taleb always shits on crypto for the volatility of prices, which is awesome. That whatever. But I do think that very similar. Internet was the same way, dude. I mean, look at broadcast, Mark Cuban with broadcast TV. It was fucking radio on the internet sold for billions of dollars. Things aren't that different. Yes, but the difference is rather than that $0 to $5 billion being in complete private market and just private money, that's public, right? And I think it's actually awesome because you have this 90-something% failure rate in companies, right? Because the only way that you ever exit is by getting acquired or by IPOing in 15 years. And with a crypto company, you can start off and being like, oh, here's fair launch, right?
Yep.
You don't.
It's true. Power to the people.
Power to the fucking people, right? Get the money. Not everyone needs a $40 billion company. Like, you want something that other people will use, and you just want it. Like, that allows you to actually do that. And you don't need to be nothing dead or a multi-gajillionaire. You can exist in a plane that lives between both of them. And I think there is beauty to that. Unfortunately, there's also going to be people who take advantage of that.
Yep.
And it's getting a lot better. Like, I'm sorry, if you were here back in 2017, fucking rug pulls left and right. People would write white papers. I'd be claiming I'm a professor, I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah, no,
you had no idea what was real. Like,
has gotten better.
It's significantly better, right? And it'll get better, but like, I think it needs to get better because I hate the thing which is like, oh yeah, dude, you need to get rug pulled at least once to be in this industry. And it's like, that's not how we get people on board. That's just a bad.
Agree. I think a good wake up call is when someone sends their first transaction and it's to a friend and you lose $50. Heck, I'd even like if it was less, that's a good wake up call instead of having it be, 4 figures, 5 figures, 6 or 7 figures. But no, I don't want anyone to lose a lot of money. And if you're going to mess up, ideally it be on your own dime and your own, time and your own fault. So you always learn better when it's like that. But nonetheless, we are getting a little tight for time. A couple more questions here. Let's go back into Zion for a sec. You guys have some really cool and compelling use cases. Earn OS with Uber, Baskin, Sunglasses Hut, North Face. I'd love if you could get into that and just sort of segue into any cool shit that you guys have popping off over the next couple of weeks and months.
I mean, the next couple of weeks I could say that, fuck it. We're going to launch. And I'm really fucking excited about that. And Earn OS is one of these people who we met back in the Bear, liked what we were doing. We reached out to them, a couple Australian guys who are fucking legends and amazing at what they do. Building effectively, looking at the questing platform community, whatever it kind of is, and saying we should apply this to Web 2. And these guys come from the traditional background, coming from Uber, from traditional marketing, and being able to say, notice the kind of similarities and saying, I know for a fucking fact that Uber will pay $5 for someone to watch this video in this region and give me their email and follow us on Twitter. And like the $5 to them, they're paying more than that as it is to not get anything direct. And the really, really difficult thing that is solved by crypto is the fact that it's impossible to send $5 to 2 million people across the world. Impossible. Like that's just not a thing that can be done.
Micropayments.
I mean, but like that works especially when you have like an American bank account. Right. But if you don't, and you're in the Philippines or a lot of the regions that a lot of these companies are trying to expand to, makes it much, much harder, especially if you want to do it all at once. So that's like, these guys are absolute rock stars and stallions. And they're building such incredible cool shit. And the whole time you do this, you have no idea that you're interacting with crypto, right? And so we can create a total addressable market that's larger than people who own MetaMasks, right? You don't have to do this download thing. You don't have to do this. You could just do it. And I think that's extremely, extremely important and goes along to like other things that we're making. One of them is like Animation Plus is a company that we're working with. They're pre-downloaded on 500 million Samsung smart TVs. And since Zion is completely walletless, you can actually have a Zion account on the smart TV using crypto without having to do anything, and just like loyalty for watching TVs or like watching the TV, loyalty, like it's shit that like that, which is like, oh fuck, like that's, you end up solving real problems when it's not like, hey, how can we add crypto into this?
So true. Anthony, what an episode. I know you and I we barely scratched the surface here. Got to have you on for round 2. And hopefully a couple pints in New York City. We'll have to do it right. And if you're coming to Blockchain Futurist in August in Toronto by any chance, if you're there, I'd love to show you around the city. But really appreciate your time. Love what you and the team are doing. Again, need more teams like you guys in the space. Before we let you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and of course Zion online and on socials?
Yeah, definitely. Me personally, Burnt Banksy, very easy. Burnt Zion is kind of the company, and Discord, Telegram. I mean, Discord, Telegram, Twitter, all Burnt Zion. I think Discord might just be Burnt actually, but I would say check out the Twitter for announcements. Discord is fucking awesome. We have such an awesome community, a cult actually. Yeah, I mean, and definitely stay updated. Or, I mean, what I always like to say is just look at the news and we'll fucking be there, dude.
I love it. Burnt, what an episode. Appreciate you coming on, my man, and can't wait for the next one.
It's a lot of fun.
Folks, what an episode with Burnt Banksy, CEO and founder of XION. We touched everything: chain abstraction, mass adoption, of course, burning the Banksy painting, the state of the market, why create another L1, again, solving UX fragmentation, long tail crypto theses, EarnOS with Uber, Baskin, and of course, creating a walletless L1 chain. Huge shout out to Burnt and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, love you guys so much. Thank you for everything, especially you, Stas. You are the man. Love you. And back to the listeners, keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.